Why don't we get started? I want to welcome all of you to Kendall Square Convergence 2016. My name is Andrew Lowe. I'm a professor of finance at the MIT Sloan School of Management. And I should probably explain what I'm doing up here at the Koch Institute, talking about convergence in the life sciences. So this is a joint effort with the Koch Institute for Integrative Cancer Research and Anna DeConning, who I'll be introducing in a few minutes. The Mass Biotech Council, RacePoint Global, and the MIT Laboratory for Financial Engineering. And all of us have come together because we have a common goal, which is to figure out how to take basic sciences and translate them into therapies for patients. And the title, Kendall Square Convergence 2016, really comes from a concept that was first proposed by Phil Sharp years ago. I first came across it in a talk that he gave at a AAAS meeting where the focus was on the convergence of the life sciences, the physical sciences, and engineering. And in fact, in a few weeks, Phil's going to be putting out a report along with Susan Hockfield and Tyler Jacks about convergence and the future of healthcare. You'll hear from Phil in just a few minutes. But I wanted to give a brief introduction about this concept of convergence because it plays a critical role in thinking about the role of Kendall Square and why we're holding this conference today. If we think about all of the various different institutions within a 5-mile radius involved in taking basic life sciences and translating them into biomedical innovations for patients, it's really astonishing that in such a small area, we've got the confluence of basic sciences, clinical practice, and pharmaceutical development all gathered together to focus on this common goal. Now, as a financial economist, I have to tell you that when I think about convergence, I think about it from the perspective of the stock market. And so let me illustrate to you my perspective on convergence. I'm going to show you a graph of 3 stock market indexes: the NYSE Pharma Index, Biotech Index, and the S&P 500. This is their cumulative growth from the 1990s to the present. So can anybody guess which of these indexes is the pharma index? Blue, red, or green? Probably not the green. Turns out that the S&P 500 is the blue. That's actually the lowest curve. Second is pharma, and of course the green is the biotech index. As all of you probably know, biotech has been on a tear, but it wasn't always this way. In fact, if you graph this on a logarithmic scale, which is what financial economists like to do, just to get a sense of different growth rates, you see a very different narrative. In the early 1990s, biotech struggled. That was really the beginning of biotech, and Professor Sharp was one of the founders of that entire industry. You'll hear from him shortly, as well as others in the industry for the rest of the day. But during the 1990s, the pharma index was doing quite well, very steady growth. And all of that changed. Between the late 90s and the late 2000s, pharma became much more challenged, and the biotech industry, on the other hand, has really taken off. To me, that's what convergence looks like from an economic perspective. That is, within the last 10 years, the life sciences have really changed in terms of their dynamic. The biotech sector has become very strong performer. The pharma index, they've gone through some challenges, but they've actually recovered to a certain degree and are doing better now. But part of the way that they're doing better is by actually doing less of the early stage R&D, and now more of that responsibility falls on universities and early stage biotech entrepreneurs and venture capitalists. To me, that's what convergence means. And it's a convergence not just of the physical, the life sciences, and the engineering, but it's also a convergence that includes financing. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here together with my co-organizers, Anna DeConning, the executive director of the Koch Institute, Tom Rutledge, an executive at Magnetar Capital, a hedge fund, and the Mass Biotech Council, John Hallinan. I don't know if he's here or will be here later on today. John, thank you for coming and for sponsoring this. And for all of the researchers and the venture capitalists who are on the program today, what they're going to be talking about is how convergence is actually playing out. And ultimately, it's really the sciences and the collaboration between scientists, clinicians, and venture capitalists and investors that will make this a success. The goal of this conference is to highlight that kind of dynamic.